I've always been naturally gifted physically. Growing up, my mother would constantly tell me to not show off, to be careful how I played with the other children, and to never hurt anyone unless I had no other choice. My parents had me a little later in life. My mother, Kara, always called me their little miracle child. My father, Martin, would always call me the unintended mouth to feed. That comment always got him a pop from Ma. I have an older brother and sister. My brother, Martinson, is 12 years older than me, and my sister, Karen, is 10 years older than me. My parents owned and ran the local tavern/inn, the Setting Sun Inn, in town. We lived in a smaller building connected to the inn. By the time I was 12, my parents had retired, my brother was running the inn, my sister was married to the local blacksmith, with a child on the way, and I would help out at the inn in the kitchen. I always had a knack for cooking. When I wasn't helping out at the inn, I was out about the village helping anyone that needed it. One day when I was about 15, I was gathering wild herbs for the kitchen when I heard screaming. I ran to it as fast as I could. A woman and her child, travelers by the looks of them, had been chosen to be the dinner of a hungry constrictor snake that had wandered too close to the road. The snake was already around the mother, and not letting go. Her daughter, who couldn't have been more than 10, was trying her darndest to get the snake off her mother. I jumped in without a second thought, and with only the knife I had been using to gather herbs, I jumped onto the snake's head and started stabbing it over and over again, until it let go of the mother, and started to come after me. I told the mother and child to run to the village and go to the Setting Sun, and they would be safe there. After they ran away, it was just me and the snake. It bit me once. Luckily it wasn't poisonous, but I managed to wiggle out of its mouth. I picked up a thick stick, and when it tried again, I shoved the stick in its mouth and caused it to be stuck open. The snake and I went back and forth for what seemed like an hour, until it drew its last breath, and I was lying on the ground trying to catch my breath. Suddenly I heard dozens of footsteps heading my way. I looked over and saw my brother, father, brother-in-law, and half a dozen of the other village men running my way. They were amazed that not only was I still alive, but I had killed the snake with nothing more than a small knife and a stick. My father spoke to me after I had my wounds looked to. He told me I was put on this world for greater things than just to help out at our family inn. I earned a nickname from that event. People started calling me the Wanderer, because I seemed to also wander in wherever there was someone in help of help. A month later, my brother-in-law gifted me a sword, and said that if I was going to keep putting my life on the line, I should have a proper weapon to do it with. My father was a soldier in his much younger days, so he taught me how to use it, and to sense the unseen around me. He would say, "We humans have a disadvantage in the dark, our eyes are useless. You have to learn to rely on all your other senses in those situations." He called it blind sight. Sadly, 2 years later, when I was 17, my father passed away in his sleep. I will always miss him, but I will never forget his teachings. When I was 18, I helped found our village's protector group. We called ourselves the Bright Cloaks, because we figured if we all wore brightly colored cloak it would help people find us easier. I was considered too young to run the Bright Cloaks, but I was a founding member. I worked with them for 2 years helping keep the village and surrounding area safe. Until one day a group of adventurers wandered into town, and was staying at my family inn. I was tasked with making sure they stayed in line while in town. But all they did while in town was asked if anyone needed help, bought up everything at the local apothecary, blacksmith, general store, and our inn, and told stories about grand adventures at night about faraway lands, dangerous beasts, damsels in distress, evil wizards, and helping those who couldn't help themselves. I was entranced by their stories. After the third night of them being there, I had made up my mind. I knew what I was meant to do with my life. Estin the Wanderer was going to be an adventurer. I sat down with my mother, brother, sister, and brother-in-law the next day to tell them. All they had to say was, "It took you long enough to figure that one out." I went into her bedroom and brought back an explorer's pack and handed it to me. My brother handed me cook's utensils and told me not to let my skills get rusty. My sister handed me a shield and told me to stay safe, and her husband looked at her and then at me and said, "If you are going to take things out of my shop to help your brother without asking me, you might as well have grabbed something better than a simple shield." He proceeded to reach under the table and handed me a beautiful breastplate. I looked at them all and said, "I'll come home one day filled with all the stories of me helping as many people as I can out there, and all the advantages I have." I gathered everything they gave me, walked out to the common area of the inn, and asked if I might travel with those adventurers for a while. After a while they agreed. I took another day to say all my goodbyes, and we were off. It has been 3 years since I have left home, and I wouldn't trade this life for anything.